Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Nigeria Now, where we keep you updated with what is happening currently in the country as they are unfolding. Presently, it has come to our notice just in that the NLC have actually told the Labour Party to shut down their office because they want them to actually suspend or actually expel the Labour Party chairman that is talking about Abure. So presently, more details are coming concerning that story. Also, we are seeing that NASU and also SANU, and also talking about the Nigeria Academic Association of Technology, have shut down the university in the University of Lagos concerning the fact that they need their wages, and then they're in front of the gate with some placards trying to demonstrate their grievances and calling on the federal government to listen to them. So we're seeing one by one federal universities are beginning to shut down. We've seen Monday some started and there more are joining. So we hope to see the government doing something in relation to that. So we'll keep you updated as the stories keep unfolding. I am Sela Elisha Dasho, and I'm doing this program alongside Rachel Pansy. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Sally.
How you doing?
I'm fine. How about you?
I'm great. Thank you so much, Rachel. All right. Now we will be looking at some stories and we'll be looking in depth into that. We will start from Abia State, where we're seeing that the assembly have taken it upon themselves to say that no more paying of pensions to ex-governors and deputies, and this is in relation to cutting the cost of governance, and they will be using this money hopefully to develop the state and also looking at other things that actually need the attention of the assembly. And I really have to applaud the majority leader because he was the one who brought this as talking about Uchenna, and then he said that you know what, they are spending a lot of money when you talk about the issue of paying ex-governors and deputies. And I think you and I have talked about that here, Rachel, where we see some states already have put that into law that for their state henceforth no paying of ex-governors, no paying of deputies, governors, and all of that. But I think it's commendable because we're seeing that I think ever since the president talk about the fact that cutting down the number of people that will be, like talking about the entourage that will be having the vice president and also some very important people. Now we are seeing that also Abia State have said that, you know what, henceforth we are not paying that. And I think it's commendable because the number of people have come out. I think one of the presidents that have been dragged over the moons is the Senate president because we know he's a former governor. And then also people are saying that he should come out and say how much is he still collecting as a former governor. And then we have a number of people that are presently in the House, either the reps or Senate, that are either one-time governors and they're collecting pension. And we've said the fact that pension is meant for those who are no longer in service whatsoever. So while we having leaders that are still serving in one other arm being collecting this pension, I think we really have to commend Abia State for that, and we hope to see more states joining in this issue of, you know what, saying no longer will we have our ex-governors or former governors and deputies collecting pension, meanwhile they are still collecting, and then the states are not developing, then deplorable state as it is presently, and then we are still seeing some of the states are actually paying out of maybe borrowing this fund so they'll be able to pay all of these former governors. And I think I really have to applaud Abia State for that move.
Definitely, Stella. It is something to applaud them for. It is in line with cutting down the cost of governance, and you and I have talked about it over and over and over. I think there's no time we talk about anything that has to do with the finances of Nigeria and we don't talk about cutting down the cost of governance. However, when we were talking about it, I remember putting down a blueprint of saying that let it be like this. If you are an ex-governor moving to the Senate, you shouldn't be paid pension from the state government because you're moving to another level. You will retire active service or active politics work as the senator, and then whatever arrears pension come through the House of Assembly or the executive level, that is what you will be getting. Now, I believe that as good as this might be, I'm just trying to see some of the disadvantage of it is that this is where these governors are going to retire. And if they are no longer being paid, where would they be getting their pension coming from? because everybody needs pension. You retire from active service, you are expected to be pensionable, be it at the civil service or be it in governance or politics and all of that. They need to be. I'm looking forward to a template where if you are going out as a governor and you are stopping there, the state be responsible for your pension.
Of course.
If you're moving to the Senate, then where you stop your service at the executive level, then that is where your pension will be coming to you. Because the concern we had is the fact that someone like the Senate President Akpabio was a governor getting that, and now he's a senator. So we're seeing someone getting pension and you're not retired. And now you're a senator, and tomorrow you will stop being a senator and there'll still be something coming. And let's not forget, he was one time also the chairman of the NNDC.
Of course.
Exactly. And who knows what other benefits come from that office and all of that. So let it be put in a place, because I'm also looking to a situation where, what if a governor finishes and he's not getting pension? Where would his other funds be coming from? Now, I also believe that the major thing is how much are you giving these ex-governors and ex-deputy governors? Because that is where the problem lies. Are you paying them in millions at the detriment of active civil servants not getting paid? What are the things that go to them? Now, until we are transparent enough concerning this, we will still not make headway. It's more of deducting what you give them or cutting it, depending on if the person decides to go to another level of being a senator, or cutting it down to a manageable amount for governors. And I believe that either way, states should be able to adopt it. For Abia, if you're going full blown that way and you know that your governors will be fine years later after no longer being governors in the state, good. For other states, you can put in other modalities, but either way, we need to see the cost of governance being cut down, starting from the state level, and then we can also move to the federal level, because I believe the federal level is even gulping more, because in the end, the state government will pay what they can pay. But when it comes to the national level, all we have is politicians bastardizing national cake. And from me, I'm not trying to downplay what's happening at the state level, but that is where every Nigerian eye is. That is where we
like
want
a
to see.
retirement plan for that.
Exactly. That is where we want to see the cost of governance being cut down. Then from there, they can give directives, but they are refusing to talk about it. And we are seeing things like some top-end senators getting 500 million, while some got just about 200. What is that?
And others getting 1 billion, as high as that.
As that, exactly. So what is that? This is where we are seeing these people messing around with taxpayers' money and going scot-free. Because in the end, at the state level, it's based on what the state can give. But at the federal level, is the abundance of taxpayers' money, of what everybody has contributed, and we call it the national cake. However, I know when we come to states, like where we're seeing Obaseki and Shahibu and Wiki and Fuber, I'm just trying to say states that there's so much God for that reason will definitely not agree to this, because I don't think Wiki will sit down and agree that his pension coming
Richard,
from
he will have a choice. You know the reason.
And all of that.
Yeah, I get the point you're coming from, but you know, for states such as that, which you mentioned, I mean, let's take, for example, even our present president. He was a former governor of Lagos State. So imagine him collecting pension as a former governor of Lagos State, and then he's presently receiving all of the entitlement that's entitled to him as the president. And then we know he have other businesses which he's running, so definitely there are more than 2 or 3 or 5 streams of income coming. And you made a point where you said at the detriment of civil servants. We know how much some of these pensioners collect. Their pension, there are people who are their pension is maybe 2,000. 5,000. Richard, there are people who are collecting that amount. And then looking at the dispensation we're in presently, how much would that money take you? You and I know that as young as we are without kids presently, 5,000 will not even take you 2 days, because just visit the market for a pot of soup, how much will you be needing? So I think we have to reach that point where we have this thought that regardless of who you are, regardless of this quote and unquote godfatherism or godfather, whatever we call it, you won't have any influence. Now we see what is happening in River State, which you rightly mentioned, where we're seeing as a minister of FCT, you are still trying to poke nose into affairs of the state that is not actually your business, where you have something bigger that you are supposed to face. So we are looking at where people, because before you become a governor of a state, Rachel, I think this is a question some of them need to ask themselves. What were you doing? So even if a state would decide today to say, you know what, for Plateau State, henceforth, we will not be paying any former governor any gratuity, any pension, or anything whatsoever, what were you doing before you become the governor? Because, Rachel, apart from the money they are being paid, they are being asked to choose a choice place where they build a house for them. And all of that, they have so many things apart from the money that they collect. So if you look at it, who is supposed to collect all of these things? Is it the governor that will eventually be collecting an appointment as a minister of labor, as a minister of water resources, or as a minister of whatever? Some of them even say, okay, if they can't get all of this, and they go back to their local government areas. So what are we saying? So before you become the governor, you were doing something. And I think when we start having laws, and then the fact that we state and say nobody's above the law regardless of who you are, forget about the fact that you're a godfather or you handed over to, you are done, you're done. Let the state progress.
I wish that would be the case, but
yes,
it's
so
not as
we're
it
looking
is.
forward to where we'll have, you know where the problem is, Rachel, is where we have state governors interfering with the State House of Assembly doing certain things. So imagine now, for example, somebody like Peter Obi. We know he was the former governor over there, for example, in Anambra State. So imagine if Anambra would do that, and then Peter Obi would come out and say, no, you can't do this, no, you can't do that. You're done. You're done. So go ahead and do what you want to do. Let the state, let us see where governors will stop interfering in their affairs. No wonder we're saying that even the State House of Assembly don't have the autonomy to do certain things. They have to depend on the governor. Meanwhile, you have the power to even impeach a governor and say, we don't want you anymore. But because a number of them cannot even do that, why? Because influence coming from the governor, you had to do some of his bidding. You are there because you had to. So whatever you do, you are afraid let the governor not say, okay, you are out, or
Exactly,
so we are looking forward to we getting to that point. I think when we get to that point, that is where we'll see a state House of Assembly can pass a law and it must stand.
Well, I think that is where I was heading to when I said states where godfatherism will not allow it happen, and that was why I started making statement with Rivers, where we know that majority of the lawmakers there are Wike's loyalists.
Yeah.
So is basically what he approves will go on in the state as it is now, whether we like it or not. And the reason being is that a lot of states are still adamant concerning cutting down the cost of governance, concerning not paying pension to ex-governors and their deputies and all of that. So when you see states like that, that obviously is what a particular person says goes, then you know that this state, there's going to still be a long time before they get to the point where the state assembly can sovereignly sit down, like make a decision and say it's going to come to happen like that. But for now, let's just keep applauding the states that are able to make move for something, and then a governor who will be willing to sign when eventually, because it has passed the second reading down, and for the governors that are willing to sign, knowing what this means for me, that as I'm leaving this office, this starts with me, and that is selflessness.
True.
And we are yet to see leaders like that. They are very few. And when we call for selfless leaders, these are the steps we are looking for, that say, you know what, it has to start with someone, and it's going to start with me. And because it's now a bill and a law in my state, the next governor will come and adhere to it, because we keep talking about rule of law. And then imagine if we will have our senators and our lawmakers doing this. But they are very selfish. And so we'll just wait till eventually, perhaps the 11th assembly is selfless, then we'll start seeing a move for that. But this 10th assembly is, of course, not showing us
we
that
never
so
can
far.
tell, Rachel. We pray and hope that you made mention of something very valid. That's talking about being patriotic. It's not about what I will gain as a governor, but it's the fact that, you know what, even after I'm gone, something is going on. I mean, you can look around and say, wow, this road is still functioning. wow, this water, this borehole, there's still, all of these things. These are things that it will be added to your credit because it was during your time that all of this. So we look forward to having those kind of selfless leaders that are willing to, do that regardless of whether they will get affected eventually. Now we're saying we have been talking, we have been making noise here, Rachel. If they will call whatever we say noise, we have tried to hit the nail on the head on the fact that the federal government needs to give us names, pictures of people who are financing terrorism. We are getting sick, we're getting tired. Nigerians have cried. In fact, parents are presently weeping because we're still talking about the issue that's happening in Kaduna. And here we're saying that the federal government have named about 15 names of those who are financing terrorism. One among which is Mamu, which we know got involved during the Abuja Kaduna train captives. And then a huge amount of money was found, about $200,000 was found, amidst many other things that he was being sold in. And then we're seeing that other bureau de change operators also involved in that. A number of businesses have been involved in all of that. And I'm happy that the federal government was able to be bold to mention few names. Even though they said 15, but not all the 15 names have been mentioned. So just here, a bureau de change. So we're wondering who is the owner of it. I mean, the BDC is not standing on its own. It has somebody that is actually operating. But then we are seeing that amidst many other people, these are some of the names that came up. And I'm happy that the federal government have taken the move to mention that, even though this happens from last year down to now. And we know even when the Dubai, talking about the UAE Emirate, sent some of the names of the people who are involved in all of this, and the government said they were going to prosecute them secretly. So definitely we know it's going to be behind the camera, no press, nothing whatsoever will be done about that. But beyond mentioning these names, when are we going to have a stop to all of this happening? Because I remember you and I have made so much emphasis on the fact that if as a country the government are willing to fight this thing, then we need to start from the root cause. Because all the government have been doing so far is just trying to break the branches of this thing. Meanwhile, we know that the real problem is still there. So it's all for the government to be willing to take the bull by the horn, break the horns regardless of what it will cost the government. Of course, we've seen that we've spent a lot of money when it comes to fighting it. But yet it seems as if we're just putting our money where we cannot get anything out of it. But then beyond naming these people, how much further can the government push in regards to saying we need to fight this thing and be sure that we are done with this? Because the rain is coming, farmers are complaining. We saw the communities that have been affected, Benue, how much losses we are running, Sokoto, and many other states that are actually suffering as a result of terrorism, and all of these things have been affecting. And we cannot even say we'll do away with it because we got affected recently. There's no food, and even if there's no food, it's very expensive. A number of people cannot access it. So we cannot say it's not part of the problem we're facing in this country. How far can the government go when we're talking about fighting terrorism tooth and nail?
How far they can go, Sarah, is by doing what is needful and taking the appropriate steps. Now, we've been a part of IMF since independence. And when it comes to fighting terrorism and terrorist financing, the number one step when you discover and you know, because it's supposed to go through a channel, just like when you go to your bank and there is, okay, so amount, the bank is expected to report. If, for example, my account have only been seeing 20,000 naira, for example, and all of a sudden I wake up today and there's 10 million in my account, the bank is expected to report to the necessary authority, for example, and then there's investigation going on if the channel is clear. Now, immediately is not. It's immediate seizure without delay, seizing or freezing of my account and my assets and everything. Meaning, the question I have is, for these terrorist financiers that you already have, the number one step is freezing every money or asset that these persons or entity have. The question is, have that been done? Because what we are seeing is that there is a plan for sanction. How do you sanction terrorist financiers, for Christ's sake? Why do we play around with certain things? Why are you planning? The number one step is to seize everything. You freeze or you seize assets and every account transaction and all of that. Why are we planning to sanction? You're sanctioning them on what basis? You're supposed to stop an activity. A sanction, I am a terrorist financier, for example, and I have $2 billion, and you sanction me 500,000 US dollar, for example. I remove that 500,000 US dollar and I pay it as a sanction. I still have 1.5 billion US dollar to keep financing terrorism. But when you freeze my account, when you freeze my asset, it means I can't even give 10 kobo to any terrorist anymore. Immediately, it stops right there. So for me is, as we've had these financiers and their name, no matter how little their activities is, some are with the responsibility of sponsoring the wives and children of these terrorists. Either way, it's all terrorism, it's all terrorist activities. We can't put it the same thing as taking care of our fallen heroes' wives and children or something like that. Have their account be seized, freezed, assets and everything? Or are we just sanctioning them, just asking them to give them part of what we have and then not seizure completely? Because if you don't freeze it, they still have what to work with. And these are some of the things that I hope, because there's never enough information out there selling. That is the that's the government, because when you have this list, who reported them? How? We're supposed to have all of these documents. I keep saying, maybe the investigation, the questioning, of course, it cannot be public. It's supposed to be interrogation, investigation are secret things. But when you finish to the extent of showing and bringing out the names of these people, we need some more information from you. How did this process start? We need documentation that these people have been freed and remanded, and they are supposed to be in jail already by now. Because for you to have brought out their name, it means you're done with your investigation. You have found them wanting. So it's either they are rotting in jail now already, not detention, not anything, not anything. They are not supposed to have access to bail, nothing, nothing. It's jail, freezing, and you face your term. And by the time you come out, surveillance is still on you until the government is 100% sure you have no business whatsoever again with terrorism and all of that. So that is the question. Are our government doing the needful? Rather than the word freezing and doing the needful and jailing them, why are we seeing words like sanction? And it's a plan to sanction. Then why are we seeing words like sanction in a measure that is supposed to be more drastic than that? Because they've been found wanting. It's not a company violating any law and okay, the federal government, yeah, we sanction you for polluting this water that you're not supposed to be. No, this is a different thing. This is a thing that have brought down your economy. Not only your economy, have made waste to the lives and properties of people. We only know, we can't sit down and quantify how many billions we have lost to terrorism, and we are still losing it. You can't joke with it. You can't. You're supposed to be. And that is what I feel we keep missing out with our government. When something is like this, they beat around the bush and try to downplay a situation. And I just hope that they are not downplaying terrorism financing, but they are going head to head with it and are seizing every action that will be able to make it try whatsoever.
Rachel, honestly, you really hit the point on the head, and I think it's important that our government adhere to all of this, because it's one thing for you to say you are planning, it's another thing for the government, or for the people, the masses, to know that you're doing it. Because our leaders need to know that they are accountable to the people who elect them in power, and therefore you owe them the explanation and all of that. You made mention of the fact that, looking at the waste, our economy keeps going down. The loss we keep recording, especially when it comes to goods, services, and all of that. So I am hoping that, even investors are no longer interested in investing and working with us, because they are afraid of their lives, afraid of things that are happening. And I hope that the government is taking the right step, because we remember when we mentioned the fact that why is the government not mentioning the names? Why is the government protecting these people? Why is the government treating them like they actually have something that they are just begging these terrorists to give them time or buying time before they do all of that. I know that it takes so much of preparation to be able to get these people down, but I hope that the government is doing all that they can, because with what that is happening presently, we're seeing what happened in Delta State, where we're seeing that it's just a guess. Maybe mercenaries are involved in the killing
Yeah.
of the 17. We are not even sure
Mm-hmm.
who are the people behind it and all of that. So this is more than just saying you will do it, but it's something you need to do. I mean, people have mentioned that they are not happy with the rehabilitation government is doing with this Boko Haram, and they're still injecting them back into the society. And we know that we are not sure of how clean
of
they are.
course
They can
not.
actually stand as a risk and all of that. Looking at some of the gadgets some of these terrorists use, you just cannot help but wonder, these people are being sponsored by somebody extremely having so much of money to waste. And some people are actually having fun, because believe you me, whether we accept it or not, to some people this is a game. They're just playing games with the lives of people. How many people have been killed and all of that? So we are hoping that the government will do all that it takes. It will really, really take bringing down certain top people down. But we are looking forward to a government that is dogged, ready to pull those people down, because these strongholds are standing
They
and
are.
stopping us from progressing as a
Yes.
country. Nigeria has all that it takes to progress, Rachel. But we're looking for patriotic leaders that are
Yes.
willing, regardless of what it will cost them, people who are willing to put their lives on the line.
Mhm.
Why? Because they are willing to protect their people. This is an oath you took. And so I'm hoping that the government will really, really stand by us and actually bring these people down. We are hoping for more names. You
Yeah.
made mention of them going to prison. We've seen where there was prison break, where we have some of the leaders that were being trained by Al Qaeda and all of that.
Yes.
So you will know that some of these people were well schooled by certain people. They know what it takes to be a terrorist and all of that.
Exactly.
So
The
they didn't
group is
join
cool.
it blindly. They know
Yeah.
what it involves. That is why we have all of these bumpers that are willing to even
Yeah.
die for the cause of this thing. So let's also have leaders that are willing to die for the cause of it. Either you and I, we have to fix it. So we hope to see our leaders doing that by us, and we look
also.
forward. We're still rooting for them.
We
keep
are,
saying it. We are
because-
rooting for them. But when we are coming out very strong like this, is because we want them to do right by us. Well, thank you, Rachel, for
You're
doing this
welcome,
with me.
Sally.
Thank you also to our viewers. Thank you for keeping this time with us. We look forward to being here again tomorrow. To have a blessed day ahead.